And so game week 17 is just about in the books, and for your old pal the FPL Nightmare, that is going to be a third green arrow in 3 game weeks, a 2.5 million rise in the overall rankings in that time. And for me, it has been a very difficult season, it can't be denied. We have laughed, we have cried, and we have gone on this journey together from the depths of 9.8 million to the brink of the top million. And we might not make it this game week. There is still a chance. We've got Bruno Fernandes to play, and by the time you see this video, that match will be over and you will know what the Manchester United midfielder has done. As I record, I do not know, but I am optimistic. As it stands, I'm on 89 points, plus whatever Fernandes can procure away at the Villains. And he would be a hero if he could get me 11 points and get me into that 100 club. Wouldn't that be a nice Christmas present for us all? Well, maybe not for you if you're trying to beat me, but certainly for me, it would be lovely. And I'll tell you what else was lovely. You know, this week, I put out 2 videos in the Sol versus Solio series. First one with Nick Trigger, great reaction and a nice calming voice in what can sometimes be quite a heated debate, I find. And Trigger he came in and he was like, these things are tools. That's all they are. You don't have to live your life by them. You don't have to bend to every whim that they desire. You can just use them to improve your decision making. And then, of course, we had Trout on the channel on Friday. And what a chat that was. What a conversation. You know, I had high hopes for that conversation. And then I woke up. I was actually off work the day before ill. Really rough last week. It was a really tough week, very ill. And I don't get ill that often. But I was rough. And I was in bed all day right up until it was the time to record. And it's a good job I had a lot of questions lined up, because, you know, the brain wasn't working properly. But I watched it back afterwards, and to be fair, I don't always give myself credit, but I did well there. I thought that was a very good conversation, and Trout, what a special character he is, you know. So kind and so forthcoming, so endearing, you know. Like, you talk to someone like Trout and you think, how can anyone dislike these programmes if they're made by a man like him? So, and to see him get the praise he deserves, and he richly deserves the praise, because, you know, whether you agree with these programmes or not, it is a fantastic programme, what they've built over at Solio. And, you know, he deserves the credit. He's shared the credit. And, I mean, it was just a fascinating conversation about analytics, but not just about analytics, you know, it's about like engagement and risk. That's a big thing for Trout, how to engage in risk to increase your performance in FPL. And, you know, to be fair, I feel like the timing couldn't have been more perfect, because, you know, Johnny Spaceboy from Solio played his free hit. And it was funny because all week I looked at Solio afterwards and it was saying, get your Brentford defenders in. Play your 5 transfers, get Brentford defenders in. And I'm like, nah, I don't fancy it. Johnny Spaceboy did. He played his free hit, went triple Brentford defence, had Kelleher, Lewis Potter. I love it, like, because we were talking about the stacking theory, you know, where you triple up in one area of the pitch from a team. In Spaceboy went with triple Brentford defence and triple Arsenal defence. 111 points on his free hit with Calvert-Lewin on the bench, which is, you know, it's fantastic. You know, and that's what I want to use these programmes for. This is what I want to use Solio for, to find ways to maximise risk, to get the most out of the risks I take. Because I am a gambler in this game. I do play on the edge in FPL at times, and I don't do it really with any cogent theory behind it. I go off instinct, or I have gone off instinct, sort of instincts that led me to Captain Anthony Gordon for a red card against Liverpool. But, you know, Solio, Spaceboy, use Solio to identify a good area of risk to attack. And you might say, oh, it's obvious, you know, Brentford defence against Wolves. And maybe it is a bit obvious, but sometimes it's nice to have the numbers to back up that obviousness, if you will. Oh, there's a birdhouse up there. Don't know if you can see it in the tree. Hello, birdhouse. I don't think there's any birds in there. You know, I've got a birdhouse in my back garden, put it up 3 years ago. I don't think any bird has ever been in there once. Little spider hut now. So yeah, it was nice to see the theory of Solio put into practice by Johnny Spaceboy. It was a good week for it, really. I'm not going to keep talking about it because people think I'm on the payroll and I'm not. You know, I'll be using the free trial next week, just like everybody else, and we'll take it from there. So, yeah, but no, it was a really good conversation with Trout, really grateful for it. And from Fran, D-Unit, Nick Trigger, how they give up the time to spend a couple of hours just talking FPL strategy with me. And I feel like maybe that's enough in that series for now. But I quite like these conversations and I'd quite like to keep them going. Maybe not about analytics in general, in particular, but just about FPL strategy, how people play the game, and the emotions. I've really enjoyed discussing how people manage their emotions. So I'll have a think. New year. Let me know in the comments if you want me to continue with these conversations, because you know, if you do, then I'm happy to do it. And if you don't, well, you might have to put up with them anyway, because I quite enjoyed it. It's nice meeting new people, even in a virtual forum. So, didn't do a team selection video this week. And the reason for that was quite simply because I made the most obvious move of Umbumo to Semenyo. I didn't feel the need for a video spending 20 minutes talking about why I was doing Umbumo to Semenyo, because Umbumo was away and Semenyo was playing Burnley and, you know, could barely even justify a short on that one. Not that I do shorts anyway. But no, so that was my move. But I mean, the other thing was, I'd put out 4.5 hours worth of videos, and I don't take the time you spend watching my videos for granted. I appreciate every minute you spend engaging in FPL with me, whether as a viewer, in the comments, you know, on my Twitter, chatting in the DMs, what have you. I appreciate it because I love talking about this game. And, you know, I should probably get back to talking about it. So I didn't do a final free hit result one last week. And in my free hit, in game week 16, I ended up with 91 points, which was lovely, you know. Sanchez, Treloba, Palmer, got 21 points from them. Saka, Foden, O'Reilly, Fernandes, Ekitike, and they all went big, and it was great, you know. It was quite nice because part of the reason I used the free hit was because it was Newcastle Sunderland and I had Wolte-magic, and Wolte-magic obviously scored the own goal, but I'd taken him out, so I didn't suffer from that. Brought an Ekitike as a gamble against Haaland, and you know, got a good result. And then this week, it's been even better comparatively, if I can find the graphic on my phone. Oh, people walking, we'll turn around. You know what I'm like with people. This week, I'm on 89 points with Fernandes to go. Another green arrow, just outside 1.1 million as it stands. And yes, I'll probably maybe lose a bit of ground to the the Anderson owners on Monday night, but I mean, how much ground are you going to lose to Joachim Anderson? He's one of the worst defenders on the game. It's one thing I don't agree with the analytics on Joachim Anderson, because sometimes teams are just bad, and Fulham are bad defensively. It's like, you know, my man, the D-Unit says, sometimes you just have to know football. And the thing is, don't think that means the programmes have no merit because they have the blind spot, because they're just tools. They're just there to aid our decision-making process. And that's what they did last week, you know, because I looked at the team and I had 5 free transfers and I only made 1. And the reason I only made 1 transfer, even though my team was struggling a bit, the reason I only made 1 transfer is because I looked at the projections and I just thought, do you know what it is? I'll wait a week. These projections look an awful lot better. Yes, I could have got the Brentford defenders in and, you know, that would have obviously paid off immediately, but I probably wouldn't have got Lewis Potter. I certainly wouldn't have got Kelleher. So, you know, I just played Tanasi instead and got 5 points rather than 6. And, you know, that's more than okay. You know, that's why I kept Tanasi. People said I should have kept Big Dan Burn, but even before the analytics, I just looked at the data and, like, at the time, you know, 7 out of 7 DEFCONs away from home, 0.47 XG expected goals conceded at home. Just made no sense to sell a defender like that. And so it was with Senesi getting the DEFCONs in the first half yesterday. Lovely stuff for. So I can't complain about that. And then what else have I got? Jury and Timber 7 points, O'Reilly 6, Semenyo 10, you know. I'm not even convinced Semenyo was a success because he was brought in as a short-term punt, you know, because of the Burnley game and with the Brentford game as the backup in case Soboslai got the yellow card, which he obviously went and got. And I thought, you know, it's worth it because you just don't know what Semenyo's going to do. And Bumo's out anyway, so I might as well get Semenyo against Burnley. And I've spent a transfer to get him in. I'm going to spend a transfer to get him out. If you value transfers at 4 points like I do, that's 8 points spent to get 10. So, you know, maybe I could have gone straight to Acuna or a Cole Palmer and ended up in a better position. I don't know, but I'm happy with how it works. Sometimes, this is what the conversation with Trig taught me, because Trig was talking about the risk management. Sometimes you have to know when to take on the field. Sometimes you have to know when to just, you know, sit back and tuck in, play 10 men behind the ball for a few minutes. And Semenyo was one of them, because if he'd have, nobody would have been surprised if you've got 18, 20 points. And that is not something you want to be on the wrong end of. So, bit of a stopgap, but I had to use a transfer anyway. So really, it hasn't cost me anything because I've still got my 5 free transfers. 10 points in the back. Thank you very much. Haaland, captain, obviously. Great, you know. He is what he is. A lot of people triple captained Haaland yesterday, 900,000. 3 people triple captained Lewis Potter. They are the true Mavericks. But, yeah, Haaland is what he is. And I had been talking, well, I'll talk about Haaland quickly because I had been discussing going against him every week. And then I talked to Trout, and Trout says, you know, you don't need to, that's a very risky strategy, you know, and he's all about engaging with risk, but there's still 22 game weeks to go at the time. And I'm what, 140 points off the top 10K. Big ask, not impossible, but a big ask. But to get there, I don't need to take on Haaland every week, you know. It was a good question, you know. I asked him, is it better to go differential captain or safe captain and differential players in the team? And, you know, I am going to take on Haaland, but yesterday, this weekend, game week 17 was not the game week to take him on, and so it proved, you know. But, so, I mean, you might be a bit disappointed. You might say, oh, the projections are making you boring, and it's not the projections, it's the conversations. You know, these conversations are to make me a better FPL manager because I want to win this game. I do like, and you might think that's a lofty aim, and of course it is. But I want to win this game, and more to the point, I don't want to be, you know, game week 18 after this, you know, we're going into Christmas, it's going to be game week 18, and I'm going to be like 1 million in the world, there or thereabouts. It's not where I want to be, you know. It's not just about this season. And this season now, yes, I'm enjoying the challenge of getting as high as I can. Yes, I think I can claw back those pubcast lads. Gary Beer, Nick Trigger, Kanji Roberto. Already left the unit in the mud. He played his free hit and I've kicked his behind this week, and that's nice. But this is the thing with free hits, you know, on paper, I thought his team was going to smash us. But this is it with free hits in a single game week. Difficult. Difficult because anything can happen in one game week. You can decide to roll because nothing really appeals in the projections that justifies a transfer. You can decide to give Nick Wolte-magic another one last game and you can see him score 2 goals inside 25 minutes. Come on, Wolte-magic. Ole, ole, ole. And that was beautiful, but it was also a bit frustrating because he could have had about 5 goals. So, but, you know, you're not complaining about an out-of-favour striker sold by 600,000 managers getting you 13 points. And, like, Newcastle always do well against Chelsea, so it wasn't really a worry, but it's good to see us play with a bit of fight again. We're going to make this a bit interesting. People are going to be wondering about Newcastle now. If we can follow it up on Boxing Day against Man United, then fixtures, you're going to be wondering who to bring in. And, you know, this is part of what it is for me, because, like, now I have big decisions to make. And one of those big decisions is whether to sell Wolte-magic after a 13-pointer when he's got the games to come that he has. You know, Man United away maybe isn't the easiest, but, like, I mean, they've just conceded 4 at home. And then you've got, just bring the fixtures up quickly. So unprepared. Then it's Burnley. Now, this is the problem. Then it's Burnley. Will he start? You know, it's only a few days after the Man United game. And is Wolte-magic going to be the player for Newcastle at home and Visser the one away? Or will it be Wolte-magic and the games when Newcastle are likely to have more of the ball, Visser on the counter-attack? It's hard to know. And that makes him a tricky asset. Because he scored 2 goals, you think, get in. He's on fire, you know. People saw your man Ekitike get 2 goals last week and there was a rush. He scored 1 goal this weekend. There's going to be a massive rush to get him. Far more than the one to get Wolte-magic back. And I get that. But at the same time, you know, it is tricky. Is he going to play against Man United? I don't know. You know who I know he's going to play? Hugo Ekitike. And then you look at Igor Thiago. Poor. Again, really poor. He is not the same. No, I'm just making a video talking about football. You're all right. That's because of the light on my camera. The woman thought I'd lost something, bless her. It's nice. You see, it's not always bad. I'll leave that in, I think. Nice interaction. You can see the side of my face. Lost my train of thought a bit now. But, yeah, this is the thing. Thiago, poor. Wolte-magic, great. But will he play? We know who will play, Jared Bowen. We know who will play, Hugo Ekitike, because Isak's done. And the other thing is most people won't go for a 3-striker setup. So when we're talking about engaging in risk, going for a 3-striker setup when most people are on a 2-striker or even a 1-striker setup is a way to engage with that risk. Now, it is harder because the strikers get less points for the goals. And that's why people prefer the midfielders. And, you know, if I wanted to switch from Ekitike to Cole Palmer in a few weeks, because let's face it, Ekitike, he'll be there for a good time, but probably not for a long time. So if I wanted to switch to a midfielder, it's 2 transfers. So I just don't know if it's worth it. Very exciting player. Very exciting player, but is this an opportunity to attack the field? I mean, I'm just talking about doing that by getting 3 strikers, sticking with the 3 striker setup. And that 3 striker setup has risen me 2.5 million places in 3 game weeks. So it's something to think about. I've got a few moves lined up. I've still got Munoz to get rid of, which is obviously a big one. I'm talking about my team a bit more than I maybe would, because I'm not going to do a video before Christmas. This is it till after Christmas for your old pal, the FPL Nightmare. I feel like you could all probably do with a bit of a rest from me. But yeah, so I'm looking at, if I keep Wolte-magic, which I might do because he's just scored twice, and if he is rested against Man United, he's going to start Burnley, and that's a tantalising prospect. And if he doesn't start against Burnley, well, he's starting against Man United, and they've just conceded 4 goals at home to Bournemouth. So, yeah. But then it's like, it's about engaging with the risk. And this is what Triggs says, you know, don't just sell good players for other good players without a good reason. And as it stands, there's no reason to think Wolte-magic won't start, because he started every game apart from the cup game. And maybe that'll continue. You know, Newcastle have struggled for intensity. But against Chelsea, that front 3 of Murphy, finally we get the best crosser in the club and the 6'6" striker on the pitch together. Like, just seems common sense to me, but it's taken Eddie Howe's time. So I might stick with Wolte-magic for another week. And then, of course, if he is benched, I'll obviously stick with him for another week after that. And then I've probably missed the window for Bowen or for Ekitike. But maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe that's not a bad thing, you know. I was quite early on Whistle last season. A lot of people waited for him, and he was a big help for me. But then again, I didn't go for Cunha, and everybody else did. And that probably hurt me more. Although we say kept in touch. So what I'm thinking, because I'm rambling a bit now, because I am tired, I'm still ill. I've got the Christmas presents to wrap when I get home, which isn't ideal. What a carry on. What a carry on it was with the Christmas presents. I was at work yesterday, made it back to work. Why I'm so wiped today. My wife was at work, got a message from Amazon, oh, we've left your parcel. We've delivered it to the resident. And I'm thinking, how have you delivered it to the resident? There's nobody in. Well, apparently they just left it on the front doorstep, and luckily my wonderful neighbour had seen it and taken it in. And to be fair, a bit lucky, because one of them was one of my wife's Christmas presents, and it was just in a clear bag. Now, what's that all about? Who is packaging things in clear bags at Christmas? That's just foolish. Maybe as foolish as not getting Ekitike. You know, I mean, the thing is, Thiago, like we had this with Joao Pedro, didn't we? Joao Pedro did out for about 3 weeks, barely had a shot. Everyone sold him, and then he goes and scores in 2 successive weeks. And, you know, Joao Pedro's up against Bournemouth, and they're terrible at conceding goals to strikers. So, you know, I think he'll go. I think Thiago, high goat, buy goat. So what I'm looking at, a few choices. I've still got the 5 transfers. Thiago and Munoz, so I've still got Munoz to deal with. Thiago and Munoz to Ekitike plus 4.6 million defender. It's quite appealing. I think I've just been priced out for Michael Keane, but it's not a bad thing if you're priced out of players, because then you get a different option. There's plenty of options around that price. Joachim Anderson. Let's listen to those projections. Don't think so. So that's one option. And it's a good option because, you know, if I can find one that rotates nicely with Senesi, then I've still got Timber and Nico O'Reilly, and that's fine. But I would prefer Tarkowski, I think. But to get Tarkowski, well, I mean, it depends. If I do 3 transfers, I could do Thiago, Munoz and Wolte-magic to Ekitike, Bowen, and a 4.1 million defender. Just roll with Senesi. I don't like that because Bournemouth are terrible at keeping goals out. And for all Senesi, nearly, what was it, 0.87 XG. All them DEFCONs. I mean, There's only so much you can do if you're a defender and you're not keeping clean sheets. So I don't really like that option. So then it's 4 transfers. Now I could get those same players out, Thiago Munoz and Wolte-magic, and also Semenyo. Sell those 4, bring in Ekitike, Bowen, Tarkovsky, and a 6.5 million midfielder. Now, I haven't looked it up yet, which 6.5 million midfielder, but I mean, there's a few good options. Yankuba Minty plays Arsenal, but he's got a couple of good games coming up. But I mean, all I saw yesterday was him getting slated, so I didn't watch, so I don't know why, but sometimes I think people expect too much of these cheap players. You know, they can't all be Cole Palmer of 2 seasons ago. You are going to have these spells. Take Wolte-magic. He's done out for a few weeks, but he's a 7 million striker new to the country. And he's come back with style and aplomb. Got me the points. So the patience is required with these players. So I wouldn't be selling Minty. I'd just bench him. If I need to look, you know, Dewsbury Hall, he would have been perfect, but he's out. Grealish. Could be an interesting short term on Grealish. I don't know. I'll have to have a think. The other thing I could do, go to a 4-5-1, 5-4-1 setup, which is something I wouldn't normally consider, but Haaland is so irrepressible. And then you look at the other options. If you go 4-5-1, you could have Calvert-Lewin as the sub, or even rotating in. And I mean, he's a man in form. Probably won't last, but he's out there at 5.5 million. It's nout. And then all that extra money that was Wolte-magic, Ekitike, whoever, all that could go in defence. You've got the money for Tarkovsky quite easily. And, you know, game week 19, they reckon Gabriel's back. So suddenly I could have Gabriel, Timber, Tarkovsky, and Nico O'Reilly with either Mukiele, Senesi as my sub-option. And that looks very appealing. 5 strong midfielders, maybe Cole Palmer. And then Haaland up front with Calvert-Lewin. And the other one, I know Krupi Jr. is a good one, but, you know, he's not playing a lot, but I could go Tierno Barry. Maybe even play him a couple of times, because Everton have got a nice run. And he's cheap. He's only, 5.8 million, I think. Yes, he's not doing the business consistently, but he's looking good. He's getting there. So could that be it? Tarkovsky, Gabriel, Timber, O'Reilly. 5 top midfielders, Haaland up front with Calvert-Lewin and Tierno Barry. Maybe. Something to think about. Maybe I'll run it through Solio. Obviously I will, because I am all in on the analytics now, and you might not like that, but hopefully you like me and you stick around and see how far we can go from 9.8 million. Can we reach the top 10k from 9.8 million? Can you imagine? Feels fanciful. Top 100k though, that seems possible. It seems possible, and maybe it will need a miracle, but it is Christmas after all, so why not believe? Anyway, I'm going to leave you with that. Thank you for your support with the Sol vs Solio series. Thanks for all the kind words, the comments. Thank you for your support in the first half of the season. Like, my channel's grown so much and I'm so grateful. I'm having so many wonderful conversations with people in the comments. Keep commenting, keep subscribing, liking the videos, all that algorithmic stuff. Yeah, it helps me loads. And, you know, I hope you have a very Merry Christmas, and we will see you next time.